In this tutorial in CyberLink PowerDirector, I'd like to give you some basic tips on what you can do to improve the quality of an audio track when it is a human voice. We're not talking so much about singing in this tutorial, but about speaking. So whether it's a male or female voice, if it's not quite what you want, are there some small changes you can make to make it sound better? The example you're about to see in here is an example of a sunrise clip with a track that I've done with a voiceover. Let's hear and see what we have to work with. It's the start of a new day in the heartland. It's a day of promise. It's a day of hope. It's a day that, like many other days, reminds you that many of the factors that shape your life are far beyond your control. Okay. I don't like some of the things about how that sounds, and I'd like to improve it a bit. What can I do in a simple way? I'm going to right-click on the audio track, and then from the pop-up menu, I'll choose Edit Audio in the lower third, and from the secondary menu, I'm going to click on the Audio Editor. Now, I've made mine full screen. Yours may start out looking like this. I'll simply re-enlarge it here. So we have our waveform of left and right track, and in this tutorial we're going to focus on one tool in particular. It's under the adjustment subcategory on the left panel. It's called the audio equalizer. I click on that and I have this intimidating box with all these sliders and numbers. What in the world does this mean? Basically we're looking at the world of sound in hertz. From the lowest number all the way up to the highest number, 16,000, K is 1,000 here. So we have the range. Now to put this in perspective, the human male voice is normally somewhere around 125. That's our third slider. The female voice is slightly to the right of that at roughly 200. I'm going to give you a few seconds of theory and then we'll get into some practical stuff. If, for example, you have a piece of audio and it's too muddy, you can't hear the difference very well, most likely you're dealing with the range under 200. And in order to improve that, what you need to do is lower the sliders. And normally you're going to have to work with more than one. So if it's a muddiness, you lower it. If you want a little more bass, on the other hand, you're going to raise the sliders in this range. That will increase the bass. So those are the opposites on that group. And then somewhere between 300 and 800, if the sound of the voice is a little bit hollow, what you do is you raise these sliders. You don't want to raise them too much or it'll sound boxy, like it was recorded in a very small room. But again, if you start out boxy, then you lower it and it will reduce that. But again, if you lower it too much, it will start to sound hollow. So those are the opposites in that range. And then somewhere between 800 and 2000, this is where the nasal sounds are from your nasal passages. If you have a cold and you're too nasal, what you have is a situation where these are too low. Anything between 800 and 2000. So to improve that, you would raise these a little bit. Maybe even this one a bit, I'm not sure. That will take care of the nasal. But you don't, again, want them to increase too much. If you have a sound that's actually overwhelming and overpowering, sometimes you want to add a little nasal sound to it. Then in the 2000 to 5000 range, you also have the issue of sound that is perhaps a little bit muffled. If it's a very strong sound, you want to raise it. If it's a muffled noise, you want to lower these. And then from 5,000 to 8,000, you have your sibilants. These are your T, S, and SH sounds, and you can adjust primarily these two sliders to modify those. And anything over 8,000, if you want a sound to be brighter or crisper, you raise it. If it's overwhelmingly that way, then you lower it. Now, I can't remember all that, but one thing I can do is this. I can use a preset and then modify it. So if I look at the drop down here, I have all these presets. I'm going to click on default. Now, anytime you move any one slider, doesn't matter which one, watch, I'll move this a little bit. Notice it changes to custom. If I start with one called pop, and I move any slider at all, it's going to rename it custom. Now, unfortunately, we can't save custom. So if I find a combination that I start with, and I like it, and I tweak it just a little bit so it becomes a custom, the only way I found to make it work is I use my snip tool in Microsoft Windows, and then I snip a picture of this, and then I can use that kind of as a cheat sheet to where I would like that sound to be in the future. So it's a very limited tool in that sense, but at least it's one way to go. I'm going to go back to default, and it sets it right at the middle. And let's play a little bit of this. Now we have two ways to preview, my applied result or my original. And right now they're the same because my default changed nothing. So let's play the preview here. It's the start of a new day in the heartland. Okay, now let's take that and let's try another one on it. Let's try hard rock. And I'll do applied result. It's the start of a new day in the heartland. Okay, that would be hard rock. Let's try bass. It's the start of a new day in the heartland. You notice that got kind of muddy because I don't want that much bass in here. Let's try a different one. Let's try pop. It's the start of a new day in the heartland. That's not too bad. That might be a place to, at least to start. Let's try soft. It's the start of a new day in the heartland. You hear the difference. Now, one thing that you might try to do to familiarize yourself with the equalizer is start with one of these and say, I wonder what would happen if I increase this one. And so let's pop this one up extreme. That way you can tell exactly what it's controlling here.
It's a day of promise. It's a day of hope. It's a day that...
Okay, so you hear the difference. So you can modify any of these as much as you want and begin to learn what happens in these different ranges. And then you can make the adjustments. But I always like to start out with one of these defaults, and at least gives me an idea on what I might like to use. Now in this case, I think I'm just going to stick with soft for the whole thing. Let's try to hear that again a little bit.
It's the start of a new day in the heartland. It's a day of promise. It's a day of
Let's listen to the original.
hope. It's a day that, like many other days, reminds you that many...
Big difference between the two. And again, the sliders should not normally move a long direction in order to make the difference. Now, if you are an experienced audio editor, I would love to have you give feedback on this tutorial for me and others who don't have your degree of expertise, because it would be very beneficial for us to learn how we can improve the audio quality by using an equalizer in our projects. But that's a little bit of an introduction to this particular tool. I hope you found it useful, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you as you share your experiences and your expertise with me and others.